This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
Phineas Gage was a railroad worker in the 1860s when a large iron rod exploded, passing through his head. The rod destroyed the left frontal lobe, and those who knew him prior to the accident were quoted as saying, "Our friend Gage is no longer here." The trauma to his brain changed his personality from a congenial man to exhibiting every bad behavior that a human being can have. Over time, Gage's bad behavior began to fade, and more of his old self began to reemerge. The neural pathways inside his head began their own repair and rewiring. His mere survival should have been testament enough to write him into the history books, but his personality repair is where the story of hope resides. The human body is a remarkable organism. Its ability to take trauma day after day and continue to function is nothing short of miraculous. Where other species would have lost their will to live, humans will instinctually fight until their last breath and return to who they truly are. I'm Kevin Donaldson here with Mike Failce, and on this episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome back one of our nearest and dearest friends, that's Mike Depalma, to talk about the suffering of a traumatic brain injury.
He's got to have the most appearances on this.
Oh, he's up there. He's like Saturday Night Live used to do like the Six Timers Club with like Tom Hanks, Steve Martin. That's going to be the De Palma thing.
No, when we can't get anybody else, we just get De Palma.
But you know what? So it's really an amazing thing to watch you coming back, even in the short time that I've known you, to watch you regenerate and come back. It's one of my favorite stories to tell.
Yeah, well, I've known him for 26 years, and there ain't no comeback there. No, he's still got bullets from, and we won't go.
I appreciate it. You know, by you saying that, I actually noticed myself, like, you know, the resilience, and I've gotten better and better and better since that, you know, first episode.
Well, you're building up that speed bump before you have that impulsivity, which we're going to talk about. Before we get into anything, let's give a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody, but we do trust Toyota of Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, to go to toyotaofhackensack.com. Now, the hurricane is in the house.
We don't have to tell us a little about yourself.
No,
we know too much about him already.
I got some other stuff I can talk about.
You always got something in the back pocket. Which brings us to our social media question. And I pulled this one. It was one that happened, that was sent in a long time ago. But tonight, I had to ask this to you. It comes from Failce. It says, what was the hardest punch you've ever taken? Mike, you're our guest. Let's defer to you.
Okay. I'd have to say, I used to train for, you know, actually I used to train, you know, boxing. I've done that for a while. And I was training for a charity event. And one of the cops in my department, you know, he was, you know, martial arts. He was a bigger guy, nicest guy in the world. And he's like, listen, why don't you come down to my dojo and, you know, we'll do some sparring. So I was like, okay, you know. And in my eyes, yeah, you know, he was a senior guy. So I was still, you know, a police officer. He always had that respect. And, you know, I started going at him, you know. And I was a little bit bigger, and he was a little bit bigger than me. And I hit him with a few shots, and I'm like, oh, you know, I was like, oh, you know, I was like, oh, you know, whatever. And he just unleashed on me. He hit me left, right. I was actually, wow. And then he hit me with an uppercut, and that pretty much rocked me. Yeah, I was surprised I didn't go down. You know, I don't know if that was a gift or not, but I was
in the ring. You ever been knocked down?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's the, I don't know, did you ever box, Mike?
No.
So
I got knocked out in football games, though.
So when you get knocked down in the boxing ring, it's the oddest thing, because I never lost consciousness.
Right.
But I got knocked down. I got knocked out, and it felt like I was up against a wall. It looked like I was just leaning. It felt like I was just leaning up against a wall, but I was on my side. Yeah. I go, what happened? Where'd this wall come from? And it was the floor.
Yeah. I mean, I got knocked down, but his shot, like it went through me.
Yeah, when you come across those people that really know how to throw a punch and
finesse.
snap it.
Yeah, it was like boom, boom, and I was like, whoa. And I remember going to my buddy's house, and I was like, wow, I think I'm a little punch drunk or something. You know, I didn't know the term to describe it, but I was definitely dizzy.
When I was training, my trainer took me down to Red Brick in Harrison, and a pro, an older pro, was looking for sparring partner, heavyweight sparring partners. So I thought I was Mr. Big Shit. I go there, and I learned in about the first 20 seconds what the difference between me and a pro is. Like just the amount of times I got hit. I look like a bloody mess. Mike, what do you think?
It's actually a pretty funny story. But, back in the day, my father owned a heavy metal club. I used to do security for heavy metal bands, and, we were constantly going at it with people. My father calls me up on weekends and says, listen, guy gave me tickets to a Rod Stewart concert. Do you want to go?
Big massive brawl at a Rod Stewart concert.
Why not? I grab a friend of mine. We go to a Rod Stewart concert over to Meadowlands Arena. Now, we park over in Giant Stadium, and you had to walk across that, the walkway going up. It was like a bottleneck.
Oh, the Continental Airlines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these guys start pushing through the crowd and pushing through the crowd. My friend's like, they ain't getting past us. So the guy goes to push past us. My friend shoulder bumps him. They start going at it. His friend came from out of nowhere, from behind me, punched me right in the eye. I wound up getting 4 stitches over my eye. But when I got hit, it was like the old, like cartoons, where you see like stars, and there were little swirly things going up. I couldn't see. I don't know, to this day, I don't know if I got knocked down. I don't know. All I remember is saying, like, I thought my friend hit me. I'm like, you hit the wrong guy.
You work security long enough, and you will definitely get punched by one of your own guys. It happens all the time.
Never saw it coming, nothing. The guy punched me right in the eye. I had blood coming down my face. I wound up getting like 5 stitches over my eye. Hardest punch I ever took was at a Rod Stewart concert. All right. I've seen Metallica. I've seen Anthrax, Overkill. I've seen Slayer. I've seen Iron Maiden. I worked all the shows, never got punched in the face. Go to a Rod Stewart concert, get knocked right in the fucking eye.
Should see the fights that happen at an Elton John concert.
A guy comes up to me the next day. Now my eye is up like this. I got stitches over my eye. I won't keep, I take the bandage off it. And the guy goes, I'd like to see the other guys. Yeah, I wish I saw him too.
The hardest punch I ever took was from a professional hockey player. Years ago, when I was still in college, I was bouncing at a bar, and one of the local hockey guys, he had retired, but he was a big guy, and he was the captain of the NHL hockey team, and he had just lost his wife to cancer, and he was boozing. He was just boozing, and people would come up and bother him. This particular night, he brings 2 active hockey players, 2 pretty big names, and he's drinking, and the head bouncer comes up to us and says, "Keep an eye on him. He's getting ready to throw some people." So me and my college roommate, who was bigger than me, and he was a big guy, we're coming up with a plan, like, how are we going to do this? I don't want to get punched, but I got to keep him from killing somebody. Sure enough, it happens. Somebody gets on him. The plan was I was going to jump on his back and hold him, just to keep him from swinging. So I do that, and one of the other hockey players thought I was attacking him, and he punched me. I actually still got a scar right here. Punched me right here so hard that I couldn't hear. Like, I couldn't hear. It must have been the knock on my skull or whatever. After he found out that he punched the wrong person, I got a real nice apology from an NHL hockey player. Schultze, thank you so much for sending that one in. That's an interesting question. It's a fun question. But it kind of leads us into our discussion tonight on traumatic brain injuries. And just to illustrate our point, Drew, you want to bring up that picture I sent you so we can give a little backdrop?
There we go.
Why are you always like that?
Oh, okay. All right.
Move your bottle.
Do not use his brain.
Wait, who did
Abby
this? I
Normal.
like.
Marty Feldman.
Young Frankenstein.
That's right.
It's actually brain.
But that's actually your brain scan, correct?
It's brain mapping. Yeah.
Yeah, that's your brain mapping, which you sent me, and of course, when you send me anything, I always turn it into something interesting.
Of course.
The smoke coming out from the top of your heads, but
I do like this stuff. I really do.
But we're going to use that as a backdrop.
We're going to go through step by step. Okay, Mike. So,
because you, my friend, have been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury.
Correct.
As you know, Mike was, as all of our audience knows, Mike was a captain in the Army, or as you would say, the Army.
The Army.
The Army.
I was.
And it's sort of taking you into an interesting path. For the opening, I talk about Phineas Gage, And I told you a little bit about him on the phone. Phineas Gage was a railroad worker in the 1860s, and one of the tamping rods that they used to tamp the dynamite with, as he tamped it in, it went through here. There's pictures of the guy. He went through here and came out the top of his head. And before the incident, he was a calm guy, congenial guy, family man, very upstanding man. After that happened, because of the damage to his frontal lobe, he became a womanizer, a drinker, a gambler. Every bad behavior that a human being can exhibit, he had it. And it really changed his personality. But the funny thing about Phineas Gage is over time, that old self started to return. So the brain does repair itself over time. Never going back, obviously.
I don't know if we got enough time for Mike's brain to
re-engage. I can definitely, I agree with that, and I think that's what happened. In my case, it's retraining itself. I'm much better, basically. Through therapy. So forth and so on.
Well, how was a traumatic brain injury described to you when you first heard it? Like, I don't even know when the first time I heard TBI.
This goes back to what we were just talking about. Number one, I don't know. I was affected, because of something happened in war. But these professional athletes, boxers
With the CTE,
Well,
right?
that's what I said.
I don't know how in the world that they could, overcome something like that. Like, I mean, that's consistent and constant blows. I mean, mine.
Can TBI be incident specific or could it be cumulative?
It's cumulative. So the study, and just to give a shout out to the study that I read, it's a pilot study of brain injury in police officers, a source of mental health problems. And in there, they talk about the constant concussive and subconcussive incidents. And in sports, it's real simple. You play football. You have a 30-year football career. If say you go to the NFL with junior football and on up. Those constant hits, those subconcussive hits, are just cumulative over time, and they damage and detach your frontal lobe. But one of the things interesting in that study they talked about is there's a brain institute in Boston where they keep all these, where they do the CTE studies, because CTEs, anybody with a TBI has a likelihood of getting a CTE, which is degenerative. So they check these brains, and you can't check them while they're alive. They can only check them post-mortem, and they brought up two people. Well, actually three people. First person was Aaron Hernandez. So Aaron Hernandez killed himself when he was 27 years old. Obviously did some really bad things, but they'd never seen a brain more damaged than Aaron Hernandez at 27. Never. Junior Seau was the second one. Shot himself in the chest. Funny thing with Junior Seau is he knew enough that he wanted his brain to be studied post-mortem, so he shot himself in the chest. Which is a ballsy move.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a ballsy. You must.
If you miss, you got a big hole in your chest and you're still alive.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about that. It's pretty interesting.
And the third one was interesting. So it was Frank Gifford. So when Frank Gifford died, he donated his brain to this place in Boston, and turns out he had CTE, and all the different. The loss of memory, the bad decision making, the impulsivity, it's common across the board. But with a TBI, you exhibit all those things. But a TBI does not necessarily mean a CTE, but reverse it, a CTE stems from a TBI.
TBI, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So your particular, is there one particular incident when you were in war that sort of?
Yeah, it was It was one specific day. We actually on base, and I had to go to the bathroom. Normally you'd have to wear all your gear, sleeping on base, whatever it is, because of mortar attacks.
Where is this now?
This is Camp Stryker. This is like outsourced from different areas.
In what country?
Iraq.
In Iraq.
Yeah. So It was a strange, we just came off of, a mission, and I obviously you lack sleep. I don't, any veteran or even police, anybody could tell you, when you're in that state of mind. So it was a real strange, I had to go to the bathroom, but it was
one or two.
No, it was just one.
Okay.
And there was something over when I was away, something I think my father always watched over me, and that specific day, when I was getting up, I was thinking about my father, something, and something told me not to, just hold on, wait. I mean, it was like a matter of like seconds. So I was like, nah, I gotta go, whatever. So I go, I had no gear on. And as I'm walking towards, I came out of my tent and walking towards the latrine, which was like pretty much like a trailer type. Everybody used it, whatever it is. And then as I'm walking, I was coming out of sleep, and I hear the whistling. I was like, oh, I just said, holy shit. I was like, I turn around and I start running. So the round hit that trailer. And
where you were going to be at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't be here. That specific thing, me stopping and thinking. So the concussive blast, as I was running, blew me into like the barrier.
Oh, you were like, it was like a movie.
Yeah, kind of.
Like those explosions in a movie.
Yeah, so, and then I literally, the barrier, I hit it. My head hit it. And it, it's just the impact. I remember, certain things like my, your teeth, like it just, so I went out, but somehow I managed to just get back up, and I kind of coordinated, a little defense or counterattack. And, I knew, and I had really, really close, one of my, he was a specialist, really good friend of mine. He's actually retired now, GBI agent. And, he said, Captain D, you got to rest, whatever. And, you don't really want to go to the medics or whatever, or get away from your soldiers, you know what I mean? So I like 2-3 days I was out, going through headaches and, nausea, so forth and so on. So
you would have the traditional concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it blew me. I was surprised, afterwards you think about it, like how in the world did I just get up and have that ability to think quickly, And I think it's just,
well, you think that's a survival mode?
I was going to say survival,
survival
but
mode.
Like I knew there was other soldiers, there was other people, there was other, I knew that was there. So I knew subconsciously that I had to protect. And, it goes all the way back, not to get off the topic, but, I was always like that, even as a little kid, I always had that sense, to protect. And obviously careers that we went into. So, that was the first time, and that was some blow, It happened again while I was overseas, and it was, in a Humvee, and obviously, IED, and that blast, they rocked my head.
For our audience who's never been to war, explain the sensations, if you can, of especially the IED.
It just complete pounding. It's just shock.
Yeah.
It's a quick, I don't know.
Because the closest I've ever come to it is, I remember, you got to remember, I grew up in South Jersey. At one of the 4th of July parties, somebody threw a quarter stick of dynamite pretty close to me, and it went off. And I remember feeling the concussion, the percussion of it.
Well, it's a luckily it hit the back of the vehicle, so that the concussive, it's like power, it's the same thing as that, the mortar round hitting and the concuss, pulling you and push you. It's like a cinder block hitting your head, I guess.
Wow.
You touched on something before with like, never getting enough sleep and everything. Do you think sleep deprivation has something to do with like TBI?
I think it has my opinion. Again, this is, for everybody out there, this is strictly our opinions. Yeah. None of us are medical professionals, but I think it has a lot to do with
Although I played a doctor on TV one time.
I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. But I think it has a lot to do with your decision making, the lack of sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And if your decision making is skewed, you may put yourself in a more dangerous situation because you're not looking at all the angles. I don't know.
Coming home, I was diagnosed with it, but deep down inside, you just don't, you
still
really
feel the same,
right? You don't believe, like, TBI, like, yeah, okay, it's nothing visible. It's nothing. It's the same thing with post traumatic stress disorder, but both of those combined, it's deadly.
Well, mental health issues are the same thing. Any kind of mental health issue, you don't realize a change in yourself.
I can't
but
see.
Other people will see a change in you.
I can't see inside your skull. Thank God I can't see inside your skull.
I could just picture a bunch of monkeys jumping around in there, like hitting different buttons.
I think Nostradamus has been in there. I'm telling you, this is going to change life.
Not Nostradamus.
But if you think about the histories, this is just something recently. I think the first, what I read was the first diagnosed CTE was 1928, but they really didn't study it. Right? They didn't. As a matter of fact, that guy Phineas Gage is when they first started doing neurological studies on humans. So this is really recent, but we've been fighting wars in this country since we began. And think about all the soldiers coming home. We used to see it with the Vietnam soldiers.
Yeah.
Right? The Vietnam soldiers came home and they were always a little off. They were
Shell shock.
Yeah. The World War I, you've seen that video of the World War I guy in the trench, he's just shaking. He's just, and they used to call it the shell shock, and then it was battle fatigue, and then it was post-traumatic stress. But this has been going on forever. So we're actually kind of fortunate because I think with things like brain mapping and things like that, we're on the cusp of truly understanding what this does.
I was explained, this was through, and I had neurotherapy done. This is
what is neurotherapy?
It's like waves in your head. It kind of manipulates what's going on to try and retrack, everything like thought process.
Try to put your sensors back in order.
And just recently, I was speaking to someone extremely, informative and much more knowledgeable than I when it comes to this. And I was under the impression, the colors, so forth and so on. It's depression, it's the red trauma and so forth and so on. So this was what this is not a normal brain.
We should have superimposed. Yeah. We should have superimposed like what a normal brain scan was.
But here's the it's impacted my life. And I'm not just
impact your every day,
right? And I'm not here, hey, I'm the only person. There's so many, whether it's a soldier, whether it's a cop, a fireman, anybody,
that's the control center,
right? I want to learn.
That's the control center.
Others,
So the brain is the control center of your entire body, and if your brain is broken, if you have a broken brain, well, guess what? The rest of your body,
everything else is going to be broken.
Yeah. Like when I went home, I knew like everything was just different. Like I really never, came home the same. I went to a neurologist, headaches, so forth and so on. And you don't think you have something. You know what I mean? Because you don't see it.
Because you don't feel any different yourself.
Right. So
it's just your thought pattern's different.
Right. And I was diagnosed, with traumatic brain injury. I don't know the severity. I'm at a point now where I know I'm 100 times. I shouldn't say 100. I know I'm so much better. If obviously you guys see me in here, the first, the first episode until now, there's so many changes that were made, and my therapist, she's fantastic. She's been working with me in many different ways. So, I wanna be able to help, and learn more.
Well, let's go over some of the common symptoms.
Mike's been downgraded to a tropical storm now.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell you that, but believe me, it's still in there. and that honestly, I just spoke about that. It's so different when, I was in the heart of what was going on in my life. It was.
Well, it's amazing how one event can change the trajectory of your life.
I didn't notice, like, even, it never. Even I came, obviously I was still a police officer, and it never came out on others, meaning a criminal or anybody else. Like anybody who was close to me, I guess subconsciously, like, one of my bosses was my close friend, and he got to the point where he knew, I would just argue, and he'd wait, let me argue, and then he said, "You done?" And I'd be like, okay. Like, I didn't realize these things until it started happening. And then, it started to, escalate with, it was just, even things.
Well, if you knew you were doing it, then that means there was some manipulation in you.
Right. I had no idea.
Right.
Now I look back, I'm like, oh, shit.
Well, let's look at some of the symptoms. And you can pick out which ones you had.
I got them all. Had them all.
Headache.
Check.
Yeah. Check.
Confusion. Duh.
Yes.
Born with that.
Abby, Norm. See what we just
born with a TBI.
I probably might have been. Nah.
Memory loss.
Bad.
Like,
and I noticed it got to a few years back. It was pretty pretty bad. And now more so, when I have any kind of stress, or anything like that, I'll forget little things here and there,
And it's to the point where you could forget something as little as where your keys are. Right?
Right.
Or like if I have to go mail something, when I'm going out in the morning and I'm having a real bad day, I'll take the piece of mail that I know I have to go mail or something like that. I'll go out to my car and I'll be, where the fuck did I put that piece of mail? I got to go back in the house, look all over the place. You never remember where you put the little things like
half
that.
Half the time it's in your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
With me anyway, half the time it's in my hand.
So many things like that happen. There was so much going on. Obviously, I'm still going through it with
But if people can understand there's the reason behind certain things, it may give them a little bit of perspective. Okay, well, Mike's confused. Mike's got some dizziness, got some memory loss. Well, is it just because he wants to do it? No, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand what's going on inside his own head. Because what am I supposed to look at my own brain? I can't do that.
Right. I didn't. It was tick boom.
If you don't have someone that's supportive either, that will understand that, it just makes everything worse and worse and worse.
That is so crucial.
Yeah,
and believe it or not, my therapist, it's been almost 6-7 years, and a text message away, she'll answer me back. Now it's to a point, believe it or not, her voice, just hearing her, it actually, okay, you know what? She's saying this. You can't. You know what I mean? It's so impactful. You don't realize.
You become Pavlov's dog.
Right.
All right. So yes,
Pavlov.
Yes, you become Pavlov.
Is that like a phlebotomist? I'm still in shock after that word. No, go ahead.
No, So there were some experiments done on mice and rats and dogs where they can actually show a dog a treat and the dog will salivate because the dog remembers what that treat means. That treat means affection. That treat means
right. Oh, okay.
And so it's programming the brain to react to certain stimuli. It's programming. It's basically what it is. It's the same way they programmed, the CIA has been programming assassins and things of that nature. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I can't
live
my life, but she's been with me that long, and there's when I was first, certain things happen. I was forced.
Well, I look at it with your kids,
and I was.
Your kids are the prime example of that.
Now that's what I don't understand.
So your kids are your calming. Your kids are your peace and your serenity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your kids are that treat that you give a dog. Like, be good, and you get this treat. Your kids are the treat. So you've been conditioned.
Right, and that was a big factor too. That just escalated what was ever going on. And we've had discussions about this. I don't understand how I'm so happy and calm
because you've been conditioned.
Right, and it's with my kids. None of this would ever come about.
And that's your safe place.
Right.
Your kids are your safe place.
They mean everything to me.
Your therapist's voice.
Right.
Is your safe place.
Right.
That's when it brings you back to when things were good.
Right. And now I understand it more from, it's not, like I said, it's not like, oh my goodness, I have to go to it's not like that at all. It's just, like you're saying, it's so trained where, even if they were to step away now, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But during that period of time, she could tell you, there was time, at police headquarters, I was forced, and she was just like, holy Christ.
Well, this
guy's a monster.
You have the impulsivity.
Right. Listen, there was no, hey, Mike, listen, don't hit that send button.
Yeah.
Okay. But the thing is, I had no filter. I had no, I had no way of understanding why I was doing those things.
I always tried to explain that.
I'm not using it as an excuse, but I didn't know.
I always tried to explain that in terms of post-traumatic stress, the impulsivity. It's like you have I've said this numerous times. You see somebody walking down the street and you don't like them. And you say, I'd spit in their face. But there's that buffer, there's that speed bump.
Bump between your brain and your actions.
You say, well, it's not a good idea. That's gone. It's good. It's like, I'd like to spit in their face. And there you go.
And I was at that point. You know what I mean? And I didn't understand. It would take 2 or 3 days with comment like, oh shit, that wasn't right. But as we discussed, if somebody said, hey, if they were trying to do something I did, we can relate back to the Mickey Mouse incident, which is, famous now, throughout New Jersey and lawyers and so forth and so on.
Lawyers.
If you want to know what the Mickey Mouse incident, go back to pretty much we've spoken about it.
It was
time.
something. It was it was very impactful.
But think about the degenerative things you've done in your life as far as drinking,
right?
And when you were hitting it, boom.
Oh yeah.
Just no thought about what you had to do or what. Just this is what I'm going to do now.
So now you add just put that scenario together: traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress disorder, alcohol, VA had me on medication. I was a Molotov cocktail.
Well, the medication in itself, and we'll that's good. That's a good segue.
Right.
That's a good segue.
Right. But now in that period of time, what was obviously having a battle and my kids, were I had no serenity. I couldn't protect my kid. So I was just in.
It just
like you said,
further pushed you into that hole.
Right. Like, the crabs in a barrel. We discussed that.
Yeah.
That's stuck in my head too. That's the way it was. I couldn't. There's no way I turned because I was getting hit in every direction.
Well, the minute you try to climb out, crabs in a barrel.
Right.
If you put a bunch of crabs in a barrel, watch one try to climb out, the other ones are going to yank them back down.
In all reality, you have all these lawyers trying to take away the love, the two people that mean the world to me.
Do you think
They're
the lawyers
taking your happy place?
Right.
Do you think the lawyers played a little bit knowing? I mean, they have a lot of access to researchers and things like this now. Okay, the guy was in war. We know he blown up. Maybe they played on it a little bit.
They pushed
didn't know that.
Huh?
They didn't know that.
They didn't know that.
Right. And I'm not like I said, I'm not using as an excuse for my actions or anything I did. My choices, to drink or whatever it is, those are my choices. You know what I mean? So I'm not using. Well,
But could it be that impulsive thing? Like
you guys know how I am. You know what I mean? I could have.
Unfortunately.
Right, but I could have reacted differently back then. I didn't have to send that Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, but you didn't have the
mental capacity.
Right, so listen, do I believe that they knew that they were going to trigger me like that? 100%.
Well, not your ex-wife had to listen. They all give the triggers. Hey, listen, say this and it's really going to trigger him. Say this and it's really going to put him over the edge. We're gonna pin him like he's a fucking bona fide jerk off.
Right, but that was obviously she did those things, but it was more those lawyers. There was one in particular, and I'm not saying, hey, everything is, he knew. He was actually told by medical professionals to stop. So now I don't care what anybody says. There's emails to show what I did, and there's also emails to show what he did.
Now, I'm going to give you a different look on that lawyer, and that one particular lawyer who knew what he was doing. If I were you, I would thank him. You want to know why? Because he uncovered your road to recovery.
100%.
Yep. Isn't that weird?
All this did.
It made you start to think about your actions, your impulsivity, your all the things that go along with a traumatic brain injury.
There was ways, he decided to, that he was a medical professional, there was a lot of things. So
maybe he was dissecting Mickey Mouse dolls.
I was going to say, what you should do as a peace offering is send him a Mickey Mouse doll without a bullet in the box.
He actually kept my Mickey. I asked for it back. He kept it.
It's in his office right now like this.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But, look, and I'm not, listen, nothing they've done, and still to this day, is what changed my life. I changed my life. So my therapist changed my life. My kids changed my life. So I get your point. But I'm not giving them credit for anything. They've done enough damage. They can sit back and say, "Well, we're doing my job." No, you went a little bit too far, buddy.
No, he made you see the light, though.
100%.
He made you see the light.
So he'll drive me to another level where, meaning, I'll get to the point where, believe me, law school and stuff like that, just to prove a point.
Did you know it?
No, I don't.
Yeah, did you know?
No, I don't.
Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
boy.
Oh my God! I gotta. You're coming back for.
You know what it is though? I don't want anybody to go through this. I had a big support group. I had people in my corner. I had people when I the situation I was in. I had guys from the academy, help me. I had. Imagine these people that are going through this and have nobody.
Well,
you understand?
The thing of it is
and you know what the outcome is for that.
But the thing of it is this is why I wanted to bring you on to talk about this, because if we talk about this from somebody who has it, and there's a high likelihood that Mike and I have it, okay, and we're obviously undiagnosed,
100%,
without doubt.
but if we sit and talk about it, and somebody who you may have lost along this journey, who sort of said, "I can't deal with it, he's crazy,"
many people,
maybe they'll sit and say, "Oh, okay, I get it. I understand why he did that stuff. Why he was a little impulsive and shut down." And you said you push people away when you're close to them, and But I want to talk about the process of healing. So there's the doctors. You have post traumatic stress, okay, brought on by a traumatic brain injury. What do? They're going to medicate you. And they're going to give you antidepressants. They're going to give you anti-anxieties, which
Klonopin, all that, Xanax.
Oh boy,
which better than anybody causes brain fog. You're already experiencing memory loss. Now you got brain fog on top of it.
All it does is just dull it. It just dulls everything, and
I'll never put another medication in my body again, ever.
Rectally is different. That one he's all for.
Take that semen shot.
See, come on. This is serious.
Well, I just had to clarify that because you said I never put one in my mouth.
It's a serious thing, and we have to make it because we're sitting at the same table again.
So you'll never do oral, but you'll
stop. No, it's very impactful medication. Like I said, every single time, and I'll speak about this. Honestly, I'm to a point where whatever anybody wants to do legally, whatever, just do it. I don't care.
But
I'm desensitized to that.
Klonopin and Xanax and all that stuff, that's a temporary solution.
Yeah.
It's
numbing it.
You wake up and you feel the same fucking shitty way you did before.
You're running away from the prairie fire.
There you
I've
go.
heard that from that before.
It's so visceral.
But after you got me in contact with that Stephanie Samuels,
oh my God,
who is just blew my mind, and she's going to come on.
Goodness,
she blew my mind with the stuff that she was talking about. Like she read my life.
Same here.
First time I talked to her, and she knew nothing about me. Nothing. She goes, "Oh, let me guess. I bet you're a football player. I bet you played contact sports growing up. I bet you did this. I bet you did this." And everything, she just picked it out.
And she asked me that question. What with I told her everything I've done, and she's like, "Wow, obviously, you don't." I didn't believe I was I didn't believe it because it's just me who I was, whatever it is, But she explained, would you tell somebody if they were doing that to do it? Absolutely not. Well, she's like, well, there you go.
You take the Mickey Mouse incident, okay? Take the Mickey Mouse incident.
I almost got that T-shirt with it. I probably would have been back in court on Monday.
But
Jesus God.
So the funny thing about that Mickey Mouse, I'm looking at it from a distance going, Mike, why the fuck did you do that? What is wrong with you? But I'm pretty sure I would have done the same thing.
Oh, without a doubt. Like you said, impulsive.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I would have done it.
Without a doubt.
Like it was just...
and if I told you about it, you would have probably told me, don't do it.
Oh, there's so many... With him, there was so many... I had no filter. Like I had... I would focus on where it just... And it wasn't... I understand you everybody says, well, you take out your frustrations on him or these lawyers, whatever it is. No, they do it to you in a very
passive,
flippant way. That's another thing that's stuck.
It's more
in my head.
passive aggressive than flippant.
Yeah. Right. So, well, they do it in a way with legal words, and they insult the crap out of you. But I'm straight up. I'm going to tell you. Listen, you know what?
Well, so there's what they do is tell you to go fuck yourself in legalese.
Right, and I'll tell you to go fuck yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, like there was one time, even when I remember, it started driving me nuts where, he'd push it on me about his credentials when he have a signature at the end of, so, me, at that time. So I did 4 pages. I started when I was in the 1st grade. I sung, the national anthem. I was Uncle Sam, and then I went all the way through my accolades in life. That's the mentality. these. Listen, you take these people out of my life. That's 10 times how much more I'm going to be better.
Well, let me.
But I know I've accepted that this is the way it's going to be until my kid's old.
So that's an interesting point. That do you have any memory recall problems with things that happened prior to getting the TBI?
That I do.
You do.
I'm becoming more. Obviously, I mean, we have conversations. You know, people might think this is that, but I'm pretty much like a sponge. You know, and now I'm getting, you know, everything back, and now I'm back to semi to, you know, the way I
Except
was.
I get the random calls. Hey Kev, I got to say this. What's another way to say it? Yeah. I want to tell the guy to go fuck himself. What's another way to say it? I get those calls.
Yeah, but at least
like,
now he's thinking it through.
Yes.
And like, he'll be like in a great conversation, you know, and I'm listening, whatever. I said, listen, how do I say go fuck yourself in a different language?
And make it sound nice.
Yeah, but that's the way they do it. Like, you know, I'm just, you know.
Well, one of my favorite words, and one of the ways, in what he did to you is I used to use the word in reports all the time. When I wanted to say fuck you, I used to use the word oxymoronic.
Yeah, right.
So somebody with a diminished mental capacity, like a lot of supervisors have, will think that I'm calling them a moron, and I love it. You called me a moron, and they've tried to write me up for using the word oxymoronic. Do you speak English?
To think about it, you know, that what you were talking about before, it was actually just used in you know, emotion about, you know, the control, like, you know, control, or like, I forgot the word. It's so many. My phone is so, it's now it just talks legally.
Siri,
hey, Kevin, what's up? You need to submit the motion on the 15th. It's like getting ridiculous now. So
Site case, Plessy versus Ferguson.
Docket number 17. I'm sorry, Kevin. I just meant to say goodnight. You know, but you know, now it was used. You know, and I'm like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Yeah, no, but I'm not gonna. You know, I'm not like that. You know, you want to. I'm a fair person. You know, do it right. Don't use all this. Like the latest one that I cause chaos, whatever it is. Come on. Like you don't even know what chaos is.
You don't know chaos yet.
You don't even, like, you know, when you know, you were in diapers when I was in Iraq. Like, stop. You know what I mean?
But that's Stephanie.
That's what drives me crazy. But
that's Stephanie Samuel's person. She put it into perspective.
Right.
So they treat this. They've been treating it wrong, or what she suspects is wrong all along. They're actually exacerbating the situation. You know,
exacerbating,
making it bigger.
Right. No, I got that.
Okay. They're exacerbating.
My vocabulary.
Your vocabulary has expanded.
Just don't even play.
It used to be a 1-page dictionary. Now it's a 5-page dictionary
with an appendix.
Exacerbated in the dictionary comes right after this and that.
Do you know it's like these words are all over my house with sticky notes.
Sticky.
Like I now have post-it
notes all over the place.
I now have wallpaper. Phlebotomy. That's a tough one. That's a big one.
So, but they've been getting this trauma that you had to your head has been treated wrong for so long, and a lot of soldiers have been getting treated the wrong way.
Right.
If we can discuss it, if we can get true studies on it, maybe we won't lose. I mean, we lost more officers as it relates to police work, not even military. We lost more police officers last year than we did from suicide than we did from the line of
military. 22 a day.
Right.
And why is that?
Yeah. You know why? Is it because of the unknown? Because they don't know how to treat it. They don't, like I said, you can't just go into someone's head, take their brain out, and see what's wrong with it, and put it back and say, okay, here's what we got for you now.
Well, there was a story where a guy came home from overseas, a military guy, and he gets released out into the wild. He's obviously got some issues. Goes out and cops pull up on him. He pulls a gun out on him, and they shoot him and kill him. Well, why did he do that? Okay, why did he do that? Did he do it because he wanted to die? Was it suicide by cop? And they don't think it was because all the precursors weren't there for suicide by cop. But even with police officers, why are we losing so many police officers? Why? There's too many to ignore. Right. It's not like they have financial. Artie Dell from 1013 Survivors always talks about Alex Vasquez. He had 3 beautiful kids. He had a beautiful wife. He had a great job. So why did he kill himself? Okay, what's the? And hey, listen, if we can stop 1, if we can stop 5, if we can stop 10. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and everybody's different. Everybody handles things differently. You know, I don't know what he was thinking, or you know what I mean. I don't know. I only know what happened to me, and you know, it could have went.
Well, did it ever get to that point where you almost just couldn't take it?
100%.
Now your mindset.
This was in the beginning when before like even the entire hurricane came.
Pre-diagnosis,
right? You know, it's you get into a deep dark place. You know,
it's the depression.
I just like I said, I think my children saved my life. You know, and that day, you know, I looked at my children, and to this day. So what would you do, you know, if you knew, you know, you would, to get to me, use your kids, and that's what's being done. But I'm to a point where I'm believe it, you know, I'm so much better, you know. It's amazing. I don't even have those impulses, you know, like it'll cross my mind, you know, like, oh man, like, and I'd laugh about it now. Like, you know, hey, maybe I should send a Minnie Mouse, you know, like, you know, I'll joke with myself. So I've made it to that point. Like, honestly, you can do whatever you want to do to me. I'm really desensitized to this bullshit. Like, I don't know what their objective is or whatever it is. You know, I just know I reach out for help. You know, I'm not afraid of it. You know, I think everybody needs it, and I will go to, you know, the next level if, you know, if she does come on the show. I'll go to Boston. Because, yes, you know,
but they're going to try to take your brain while you're still alive. They're like, hey, we need this one.
How much? 3,000? You never know. I can solve a lot of mysteries.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, but if I can come back and help others, which you guys do all the time, and even this it's, you know, I would love that more. You know, I would love to, you know, for my children, like this is what it's about.
So what's changed? So talk to me about, you know, how long ago was it at its worst? Let's start there.
2017.
2017 was at its worst.
Yeah.
So if you look at your decision making, let's give a scenario right now how you were to react in 2017 versus 2023.
2017, you would come on my path, you're going down. Like I didn't, you know, and the crazy thing at work, just the opposite. I couldn't understand. You know, maybe it was because it was quasi-military. I don't know. Like I never had outbursts.
Or was work a safe place for you again?
It was. Like I should have been my thought process. I should have been, you know,
because
beating the shit out of people.
Work gives you purpose too.
Right.
Work gives you purpose. You have something to do, and that was my hardest thing is when you're in work. You know you have something to do. And it's still till today. If you have nothing to do all day, now the brain starts going. That's when you're going to get in trouble.
Right.
You know, if, like, I work for the school district now. If I know there's a day off the next day, I'm like, oh, Christ. You know, because the night of mine's devil playground, and that's when you start thinking and overthinking things and all that.
That's when I just fill my life up with other bullshit.
No, I don't, honestly, I think it's just lack of knowledge, you know, and acceptance. You know, and really understanding, like, shit, we're a little fucked up.
Well, that's the whole thing with mental health, because it's
we're
really
a little crazy. You know, in a sense,
you can't fix a car until you figure out what's broken.
Right,
exactly.
And
if the car's not running, you're just not going to change the tire.
Right, and I've taken, you know, you have to get help.
Well, so that get the right help, because some people just stab in the dark.
Right.
You know, okay, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this.
Kevin and I have had the wrong help.
Correct. Which that guy's still treating officers, by the way.
Is he really?
I just found out the other day.
I heard they took him off.
I mean, like, you know, it's definitely.
Stop by and see him one day?
Our mutual friend, our mutual doctor friend, told me that he's still treating people.
You want to go pay him a visit one day?
Yeah, I ended up throwing him out the window. Like at that time, so we were at a therapist. Mike and I we went to this. It was a workers' comp therapist, and this guy was so inflammatory. He's lucky. He first thing he did was put a MMPI in front of me. I was like, "You're going to give me another one of these?" I was like, "What are you doing? I just went through a traumatic incident, and you're going to give me an MMPI, a 550 question test, Scantron." I said, "No." They said, "You take that and shove it right up your ass." Oh, I don't understand why you're being so combative. Really? You don't understand why I'm being so combative? Because I'm coming to you for help and you're giving me a test. Like, come on.
It's
That happened to me up in Oakland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another one. He gave me the.
Yeah, I was up there.
I had to
He
take
gave me the Rorschach test.
I had the Rorschach. I had the Wonderlic test. I had the
It's like a
MMPI,
700-800.
I had the MMPI, and then I had the fitness for duty.
So did you ever have a
Two
Yeah,
weeks.
I had the fitness for duty.
2 weeks after my incident.
Did you ever have a Rorschach? The ink blot?
Kevin, I think they put me through so many
So
tests.
So it's funny.
The hurricane almost came out in that place too.
Rorschach right here.
Wait, was it the red test or the yellow?
So did you ever see? I actually got gig for this, and it was up in Oakland. I got gig for this because he's giving me the Rorschach test. I came off of midnight, and I had to take this test, so I was a little loopy anyway because I hadn't slept. Do you ever see Armageddon? And they're giving him the Rorschach test, and Steve Buscemi's taking it, and he goes, I see a blonde with big tits. I see a brunette with big tits. I see you with big tits. Yeah. So I start thinking about that, and I laughed. I start laughing, and sure enough, he marked me off for it. Yeah, and then the head guy there, and I won't say his name. He gives me his book that he wrote as a method to try to heal myself.
Yeah, listen.
That's not self-serving.
I think everybody has to find their own outlet, their own person, or their own thing, to help. I mean, I found mine. Obviously, I've accepted it. Yes, have my kids back. We have a great relationship, and obviously it's used the war and your behavior. Okay,
You're not an excuse guy.
I get it. So I want to say, listen. Hey guys, I'm sorry. In the 5th grade, I got detention for the first time. Like, why don't you go bring that back up? Like, come on.
Yeah, but let's get into the
time I threw a raisin.
Yeah, honestly, listen.
Threw a raisin at a nun in 3rd grade.
Truthfully, these lawyers, I handed it to them. Here, I on a silver platter. Like, if you think you're that great, for what? I gave it to you.
So aside from your appearance a long time ago on the Suffering Podcast, what has been the most beneficial thing to the healing of your broken brain? Therapy. Talking it out. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that's worked for me. Like that, if I were to give you the thing that's worked 100% for me is talking.
Acceptance. Just owning up. You know what I mean? If
it was like when you came out of the closet, we all accepted you. We all accepted.
The difference
why
between
can't
the three of
we
us.
gotta have a whole series?
I'm about to get serious. I'm about to get deep.
You did this already.
When me and you went through, we went to therapy and we went to the gym as an outlet. Mm-hmm. Did you ever try going to a gym?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, just checking.
You want to see my tricep?
No.
See what I'm saying?
Can't get past the third chin.
Come on. There he goes again with the chin. Listen, you can't replace. Look at you. You're stuck with that. I could lose that. You're stuck with that thing going right there. The whole thing.
Oh God, I love it when Mike's in here.
Yeah, it's the same. It's like repetitive, like the lawyers. Your behavior, come on, you got to get some new material.
We're trying to poke the bear a little bit.
No, it's gone. It's like a little teddy bear.
But how is your decision making process changed? Is it just that little buffer? You got that little buffer back? Because I know you still have the impulses.
Got the speed bump back.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, you do. Like, listen. Basically, taught, where just let it go. Don't. I used to sit in my house, when I obviously
let it fester.
Listen, all night, 2, 3 in the morning, looking at emails, Depalma versus Depalma, Depalma versus Depalma, and you're not realizing that you suffer from this, whatever it is. Like, so
your lack of focus actually hyper focused you on
right.
On the wrong
now
things.
I'm like more and more because now I know I'm never going to do stuff like that again because the two most important things are at risk. Mm-hmm. You understand?
Absolutely.
So it's
but that changes that right there shows me the change in your thought process.
Right. I mean, listen, it's a drastic change. Not that I'm saying, listen, I don't suffer from it anymore. Of course I do. But my actions are not going to be the same because of.
But in 2017, were your kids at the forefront of every decision you made?
They were, but they weren't. I didn't. I knew anything I ever done wasn't around them, but on the outskirts, I did.
Yeah, but your kids aren't with you. What I'm trying to say is your kids aren't with you 24/7 now.
No,
they're not with you. But I do know the decisions that you make now on the periphery, like you said, I have a feeling they're in your mind now.
Every day.
Okay, so
I'm never.
you see how that decision making has changed?
Right. And that was another thing where, Anastasia Patel.
Try not to do this when you're talking about your brain.
No, well, that's the way I was. No, but it's
just a crank that keeps the brain working.
It's repetitive. Hold on, wait. Don't let me let my train of thought. Come on.
Taught.
All right. So, it's always, hey, the overall goal, the end game, my kids, the end game. And that's in my head.
But that was different in 2017 where you'd see your kids and your kids were important to you. I'm not saying they were, but then you'd go out and destroy yourself.
Right.
Right now, you don't go out and destroy
because
yourself.
Listen, so it's just when they leave now, I'm drained. I can't protect. I can't hug. I can't love. You know what I mean? So, and then in the interim, every Monday, Depalma versus Depalma. You need to pay this, or Depalma versus Depalma. You need to do this, or it's so. I've accepted that. I've accepted the fact that this is the way my life is. I'm not going to let it change or let it stop me from
destroy you.
Right.
You're not going to let it destroy you.
I'm not. Like, listen, I'm going to have a good weekend this weekend. I don't, whatever it is, because I know my kids Thursday, Tuesday, and hopefully, which it's going to happen unless I'm sure something will pop up. There's going to be more custody time and everything get back to normal. Listen, my actions, whatever, it has nothing to do with my children. Has nothing to do with my love for my children. It has nothing to do with my relationship with my children. It has nothing to do with it.
I just think your decision-making process is much more solidified and sound
right.
now as opposed to 6 years ago.
Right. But don't get me wrong. Like, I'll protect. I'll protect my kids and friends or loved ones in my life like no other would.
Do you think the difference in 2017 was alcohol and medications too?
When I came home, it was you can see that it progressed. My post-traumatic stress disorder that was diagnosed. I mean, it just everything fell into place. Like it was there. It was if you wanted it to come out, it would come out. You know what I mean? It's the truth, and I'm not trying to say hey. And it's sad because there's so many other people, not just veterans, or cops or all these people, UFC fighters, anybody who takes these blows. It's now you realize, oh shit.
Yeah.
And now with those conversations I had with her, I'm like, wow, this is real. And I'll never let anything come between me and my kids again.
Well,
it's not.
You just got to surround yourself with the right people.
Right. It affected,
and you're doing that by coming in here. You're
right.
around the right people.
Listen, because I feel we talk. Like it's right. You have to have that support. And like I said, imagine people that don't have this.
So for those people out there who don't understand traumatic brain injury or living with somebody with a traumatic brain injury, those are the people that need to be educated more so than the people with the injury itself.
And you got to have somebody that's there. The person I'm with now, it's just, listen, she's probably got traumatic brain injury because of me.
She's got
post-traumatic
injury.
Yeah, she got post-traumatic mic disorder. She's got everything. So that's somebody like, and
it's post-traumatic stress Depalma.
Right, and we battle, whatever it is, and it's and obviously what I'm going through, with I'm going through, it affects that, so it's a whole big picture, but something now and even then, it never took me to that next level where, physical, you know what I mean? It's something inside of me just said, hey, it's an eye opener. It just recently, I got hit in the head with a excavator, like the side of it, right? And I was like, oh shit, I got.
Did you damage the excavator?
No, and I actually.
The ambulance came and took the excavator away.
The thing, it went up like this, but I texted my therapist. I said, I'm so used to it. I don't even know when I have it anymore. I'm serious. I'm like, hey, I think I got a concussion. So she's like, well, how do you know? I said, well, I got massive headaches 3 days and I was dizzy. So I know now, but I didn't know. You know what I mean? At first, I think, I don't know how that works. And it's something I want to learn about. Like, how many more blows can you take?
Well, Kev, think about it. When we were growing up playing football, you never had concussions. You had your bell rung. They gave you smelling salts and put you back in the game.
No, I never once.
Smelling salts.
Yeah.
I read something after, every time you tell me something, I research it and I read about it. Like, I think it was, that's just classic, but I think it was 60,000 shots to the head. I don't know which football player it was. It was 60,000 in his career. I read something
Probably
about
Junior
that.
Seau.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, see, that's like one thing with my memory. Like, I'll read something, and then I'll just, when I stress out or whatever, I'll just, it'll slip away. But it was 50, 60,000. Now imagine 50, 60,000 blows to your head. And listen, those things, that I went through, it's two separate things. They were bad at the time. Yeah, it probably did some damage. It definitely did some damage, obviously. But can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing. That's like a Tootsie Roll to somebody like that.
It's a fucking odd analogy.
Well,
Tootsie Roll.
there you go.
Yeah, here you go.
It makes sense to me.
Explains a lot.
Do not use this brain or the Tootsie Roll.
So if Dr. Frankenstein approaches you in the morgue, Frankenstein approaches you in the morgue.
You know what? The Tootsie Roll, see, I had Snickers today, so it was a comparison.
Snickers.
The Tootsie Roll to the Snickers.
Mike, we are coming to the end, and we always end the show with the same question. You have this abnormal brain, this TBI.
You don't have to say that.
And
you don't have to tell everybody.
And a dirt chin.
So,
See what I'm saying? You got a third head.
so Abby, what do you think the suffering of a traumatic brain injury has taught you?
Help. You need help. You need constant help. You need support. You need therapy. And one thing that we're doing right now is it's comedy.
It's a group therapy.
It's
a group therapy
I've
session.
made a lot of things comical. Where I
Yes, you have.
right. No. Seriously, I smile about things. Nothing I could do.
Well, this show has been nothing but a big giant group therapy session.
Yeah, for us, without a doubt. Every week in, week out.
Right, and I commend you. I come on here. I'm more and more comfortable. Obviously, we talk on a daily basis. It's help, and you have to accept. You have to really realize, like, oh shit, I was diagnosed with something like this, so I guess I haven't. You know what I mean? I realize now, like, shit, I all the things I've done, 100%.
Well, none.
You were saying, therapy and all that. One of the things that gets me through is just like a deep breath, right? Now that's that speed bump theory. Take a deep breath before you react.
Yeah.
Don't like Kevin said before, impulsive. If you have TBI or PTS and you act off of impulse, not going to be good.
Well, you realize that none of us are as strong as all of us, which was a quote from my college football days when we lost one of our coaches. And so we had a gentleman in here, a guy named Mark Vesper, who used to be my boss a long, long time ago before I was a cop. And he taught me the Vesperian pause, which I lost for a long time. And all it is when you have a decision to make, instead of spouting off, just
Deep breath.
right?
Yeah, no, I know.
So deep breaths and maybe some time at the Grand Saloon. That's where we got to go. 940 Van Houten Avenue.
I would
Absolutely.
like that,
We're trying to get some Spam on the menu. Actually,
if they want a hurricane.
No, Grand Saloon's great, man. Great food, great atmosphere,
Yeah.
great people, and you never know who you're going to meet in there. Because Mike and I were sitting there one day. We're talking to a retired cop who used to be a Baltimore cop who knows a guy who runs a radio show that Mike and I have both been on.
Jay Wiley.
Yeah, Jay
that's
Wiley.
cool.
Yeah, it's just, and we get on the phone to him and like, hey, how you doing? He's got his phone number, and so that's the type of atmosphere Grand Saloon is, and they're very supportive of police and vets as well. Nick does a wonderful job with that. Mike, I can't thank you enough for coming in. You're always there for us.
It really is. I mean, we like to break. No, listen, I'm going to be nice.
See, the peanut gallery's going again.
We like to break his balls, but he's come a long way since the first time he's been on the show.
He's come
I
out.
was
Without
a
doubt.
long way. Oh my god,
You've really come a long way.
I wasn't really happy. Wasn't in a good place. Just, and I watch these episodes and you guys listen. And sometimes I don't feel worthy about telling my story. Listening to these other guys. And I'm more so, hey, I want to tell it because I want to help. If I could help somebody,
that's what it is. It's not that
I'm definitely going to go for that treatment in Boston.
It's not that
100%.
It's not that you're not worthy. It's just your problems are your problems. Right. Other people's problems are other people's problems. They're dealing with it the same way they are. Their problems may seem bad to you. Your problems may seem bad to them.
Right. I'm living proof with all that. What could happen and what it's. I took it to
The downward slope of a life.
And at that time, you didn't get that. You didn't want the help. You just didn't give a shit.
Well, especially in law enforcement, you couldn't get the help because then you're that guy.
Agree.
You know, now you get put on a rubber gun squad, and
Right.
you know.
Which I was on, by the way. I was actually on the rubber gun squad. It's not a fun place to be.
I think I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, then everybody's looking at you, talking behind your back.
Yeah. There he is.
Yeah.
There he is.
Honestly, I didn't give. I still don't give a shit.
Well, I know people from my academy class that like, I got back to me like, yeah, we heard you were on the rubber gun squad. I go, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for this episode. I appreciate it, Mike. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast. As always, let's think about all the stuff that we learned. The brain is the captain of the ship. A TBI can change the trajectory of your life. A TBI doesn't mean you can't succeed in life. Time can repair all things, but most importantly, reach out for help. Don't forget to visit popple.com for a nice digital business card. Put in the code TSP20 for a nice 20% discount. Follow us on all social medias, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Follow Mike at Mike_Failce. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. And don't forget, you can always listen before you watch. All of our audio episodes come out in full on Sundays. And that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see you on the next one.